Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. I am down here by the river playing around with some tackle, getting a few things organized for my next tournament and some of the summer events that I've got just locally up here in the Wisconsin area. And one of my favorite summer baits to throw is a crankbait. And that's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about the retrieve on a crankbait. In my opinion, there's 3 retrieves that you need to be concentrating on when using a crankbait. And I'm willing to bet you that 75 to 80% of the anglers out there are not using one of these 3 retrieves. They're using a straight cast out, retrieve back to the boat, maybe putting in a pause here and there, but the reality is there's 3 retrieves that generate more bites than just a straight retrieve. You will catch a fish occasionally if you are casting out and retrieving a crankbait back to the boat, but it's not the best way to get bites. It really is not. You're really missing out on a bunch of strikes. So I want to show you the 3 retrieves that I use and I know a lot of the top crankbait fishermen use when, you know, fishing some major tournaments. They are ways to make fish react to your bait. So what I've got here is I've just got here a Berkley square bowl, just a square billed crankbait, something that runs shallow because I'm going to be casting off the riverbank here, and it's only a few feet of water. But it doesn't matter if you're throwing a square bill or you're throwing a crankbait that dives 20 plus feet. These are the retrieves that you're going to be looking for. So let's go. I want to walk you through those. But before I get into that, I want to remind you guys, if you're looking for a little additional content from me, check out my channel membership. A bunch of extra videos. We do monthly live streams. We really get in depth on a bunch of different topics. We've got our next one coming up here probably in the next week, the next live stream. So check that out. You can go to the membership tab on the homepage and find out more about that. So I really recommend that. Also, if you're looking to support the channel in other ways and you want to buy some fishing tackle, please use the Tackle Warehouse affiliate link that I provide in the video description. All right, guys, let's go show you the 3 retrieves you need to be using with crankbaits. All right, so the first retrieve is going to be when you're fishing a crankbait above the bottom, meaning you're really not trying to make contact with the bait. You're burning this crankbait back to the boat, putting in stop and go retrieves on the way back. But the key here is to burn the bait. You want to retrieve this as fast as you can because you're trying to get the crankbait down close to the bottom, but not hitting the bottom. So you throw it out, and guys, we're talking, you crank it, stop it, crank it, stop it. And you're doing that as fast as you can. It's really just a matter of trying to create a reaction strike. This is a great way to catch suspended fish. It's a great way to draw fish off the bottom in clear water. So if you're fishing, say, smallmouth or spotted bass, they will crush this technique. You know, what I like to do is pick a bait that'll run to within 3 to 6 feet of the bottom, but stay off the bottom. So you throw it out, and at that point, crank it down, stop it. Crank it down, stop it. And you just do that all the way back. But the key here is you want to reel at basically the highest speed you can possibly do. Retrieving with a higher gear ratio reel is definitely good as well because that helps you pick up more line per reel turn. But you don't have to do it. But I do recommend going with something a little bit faster, maybe a 7.3 to 1 or faster. But you got to remember, if the higher up you go in gear ratio, the harder it is to crank per reel turn. So it's going to be more of a workout. So that's the first one. That's for catching more of the suspended fish or drawing the fish off the bottom. All right, so the next retrieve style is what I call the sweep. This is where you're going to allow your rod to pull the bait down to the depths and allow your rod to feather that crankbait through the cover. You can do this both shallow and deep. You know, if you're fishing deeper, you're going to cast it out there and retrieve it down to the depth you want it. And then once you get it there, you're just going to slowly pull it. But you're not going to retrieve or reel the line in until you are done with the pull. So I'm just pulling it. And then once the bait, I stop it, at that point I can retrieve my line. But I'm literally just trying to feel the bottom with my rod tip. And what I'm doing when I'm doing that is I get ultimate feel of the bait. I know exactly where it's at. And a lot of times you know where your strikes are gonna come because you can feel it come through a laydown, or you can feel it come through a rock pile or something along those lines. But you reel it down, get to the bottom, and then you're just pounding it. You can see my rod tip is bouncing all over, and that's because it's just pulling on the bottom. But I'm not straight retrieving it. I'm literally giving it slow sweeps so that I can get the correct feel and allow my bait really to finesse through the cover that I'm fishing. You know, that's the biggest difference. The first retrieve was more about creating some, you know, big reaction strike by burning the bait as fast as you can. In this case, it's really about working at crankbait as slow as you can through the cover that you're fishing. So I'm reeling it down, hit the bottom there, and I just go into my sweep. Pick up my line. At that point, your bait's floating up a little bit, which is where a lot of your strikes are gonna come in. And I'm just trying to really tickle the bottom to feel what's down there. Really good way to trigger a strike. This is something a lot of pros do, especially in colder water. If you remember a few years ago, Edwin Evers was fishing the Classic on Grand Lake, doing really good fishing a bait like that. It's a really popular technique for your flat-sided crankbaits because those are, you know, good cold water baits. But you reel it down, I'm hitting some rocks, and I'm just pulling it along now. Okay, so that is retrieve number 2. All right, and the third retrieve that most people are not doing is what I call the grinder. This is potentially the most popular at the professional level, especially for your deeper ledge lake type events, lakes where you're fishing deeper. You can do this shallow too, but it's really effective at a deep level. And this is where you make your cast out and you burn it back to the boat pretty much as fast as you can, where you're almost setting the hook routinely because you want that bait to dive into the bottom and hit the bottom and deflect off to the side. It's really an aggressive way to fish. It's one of those techniques where you hear people talking about grinding the bills off their crankbait. This is how they're doing it. I mean, some of the top guys in the game are literally grinding a 1/4 inch off their bills 3 or 4 times during a tournament. Like, that's how aggressive this is. So they throw it out, and then at that point you reel it down quick, and then you just keep burning it. You get it down to the bottom, and you basically are like setting the hook, just trying to get that thing to deflect. So you're basically trying to work in everything, where you're burning it back to the boat, you're giving it a couple of short stops, and you're trying to hit the bottom and deflect it in as many different ways as you can. Why? Because that's what generates those reaction strikes from the fish. So you fire it out, you get it down to the bottom, and you keep burning it, but you're like jerking it and setting the hook the whole way back. And that set the hook is really what's going to trigger that fish to strike, and it's what's grinding the lips off the baits. But guys, I'm telling you, that could potentially be the most effective crankbait retrieve during the summer months when the water is active. So if you're not doing any of these 3, that's how you should be fishing a crankbait. Don't give me this, throw it out, straight retrieve back to the boat. You're gonna catch an occasional fish, but I'm telling you what, if you do the sweep and get it down on the bottom and sweep it, if you burn it and stop, burn it and stop, or get it down to the bottom and burn it and just start trying to get that thing to deflect off the bottom, you will increase the number of bites substantially, guys. So I'm telling you, give it a try if you're not fishing a crankbait in this manner. Thanks for watching. I hope you found this helpful. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned. Another video coming out tomorrow.